Charles Louis Mortgage Advisors, 0161 959 0166.
Well, Paul, you're, as far as I'm concerned, a City legend, and I don't use that word lightly because you've fulfilled every role practically that you're possible to fulfill at City, as well as being a player, captain, academy, long-standing player over many, many years, scored a winning FA Cup semi-final goal, and then, of course, played at Everton, won a league title. When you look back on your career, what makes you the most proud, Paul?
Without a doubt. I mean, to lead Manchester City out at Wembley was a dream that I'd had since I supported them. I've always supported City from being a boy. Mum and Dad brought me up as a City fan. So to actually play for Manchester City was a dream that was attained, if you like, and then to lead them out as skipper in the FA Cup final, the 100th FA Cup final as well. So it was quite an occasion. Without a doubt. And even though we didn't win the game, and I would have loved to have had photographs around Main Road and the Etihad of me being hoisted on players' shoulders like there is of Tony Buck when they won it in '69. That would have been the icing on the cake. But to actually lead them out, meet the Queen Mother, be a part of that whole spectator experience was a memory that I'll never lose.
At what point in your young life did you know that you could be a professional footballer and that you had a talent that might mean that you could have a really good career out of it?
Probably in my sort of third or fourth year at primary school. I went to St Anthony's primary school in Woodhouse Park, and we had two teachers, Paul Bell and Des Murphy, who were connected to the Manchester Boys under-15. So they were sort of coaches, if you like, in their own right, although not, coaches in the term that you would use today in the professional game, but magnificent enthusiasts. They had a sort of a target for players to reach, and we had a really successful school team. We actually won the Manchester Primary Schools competition then, and in that time there were like 330 primary schools, Catholic primary schools in the in the competition. Nowadays, I would imagine it's far fewer, because schools football took a priority then. But since the introduction of academy football at football clubs, that tends to take priority, and schools football has taken a bit of a sort of a back seat, as it were. But yeah, brilliant. I mean, those two teachers encouraged us. And then I went to St Augustine's grammar school in Sharston in Wythenshawe. We had a teacher there called Denny Howells, who himself had been a footballer, either semi-pro or always a good standard. Watched lots of football and talked to us about the games that he'd been to the night before and encouraged us. I had a Monsignor McGuinness, who was our head teacher. He would let players from the rugby team play for Manchester Boys Rugby, but wouldn't let players from the football team play for. He was a bit old school, Oxbridge type, and so rugby was obviously more important to him than football was. And anyway, with support from Denny Howells, I then got onto the trials for Manchester Boys. I made the Manchester Boys team, and then I decided to stay on and take my A-levels, so I played for Manchester Boys under-17s, and that's when Manchester City saw me. Really, the chief scout then, Harry Godwin, was at a game on a Sunday, just round the corner from his house, and he came up to the manager of our team, which was called West Park Albion because we played at Wythenshawe Park. A fella called Desrow who gave him the contact details to speak to my mum and dad, and then he came round on the following Monday. So the game was on the Sunday. He was at our house on the Monday, and my dad was actually at the pub at the Talk of the North, So I sent him down, and I think he had a few pints with my dad, and then that was it. It was agreed to go down and just be a part, have a look at City, really, and let them have a look at me. And my first day there, when he was showing me around, Malcolm Allison and Joe Mercer were sitting in the dressing room with nothing on. I mean, there was me about sort of 12 or 13, and I've gone into the dressing room, and there's these two blokes sitting with nothing on. My heroes, by the way. And Malcolm Allison said, get some kit on. And he put his kit on and then took me out on Main Road and just had me running up and down with the ball on my left foot. And, then he said, oh, don't use your right foot ever, and I probably never did the rest of my career, to be fair. But, I mean, fantastic experience. And my dad was friendly with Stan Gibson, who was the groundsman at the time. So loads of City connections, really, good memories.
It's one thing being a talented youngster, which clearly you were, but you have watched lots of, youth football, just as I have. You've watched a lot more than me, and actually picking out the kid who makes that leap, shall we say, from being a young player to a senior player is hard sometimes to predict. What do you think is the difference between a talented youngster who has all that gift and everything and the one that makes it? Is it about being a man? Is it that cliche, being able to be more physical, or is it something to do with mentality? And what was it that you think took you from that boy to that man and the success in the big game?
Yeah, I think there's an awful lot of things. I mean, I spoke to a sports psychologist called Bill Beswick when I was working for the PFA, and he said if you look at the physical attributes of a footballer, there are about 5. Can you turn quickly? Have you got speed? Have you can you change direction? There's not, the physical strength is obviously another one, but there's about 5 issues relating to your ability, physical ability. But the mental approach to, are you resilient? So if you're knocked down, have you got the strength to come back and overcome that? And then, I mean, that to me would be the biggest one. Everybody playing professional sport will have a knockdown at some time in the career. I had a disastrous time at City. When we got relegated, the year we got relegated, I was a captain. I bore the brunt of the Kippax Street disappointment of the situation, and coming back from that was difficult if you understand. But there's lots of psychological aspects of a player. Awareness on the pitch, how you conduct yourself away from the pitch, what your upbringing's been like, and how your parents have influenced you. There are so many, but I think when I was working with Jim Cassell at City, we used to look at attitude of players. If like for instance, Joey Barton was when he was 16, we had to make a decision as to whether he was going to be a pro or not. He'd been a YTS, an apprentice at City, and we had to make a decision. He couldn't get into the youth team at the time because we had Dixon Etu, who was a real good physical specimen, and also the Canadian lad,
Terry Dunfield.
Yeah. So those two were in the centre midfield ahead of Joey Barton. But Joey's psychological commitment to wanting to be the best and wanting to get into the team and get. I mean, the reason he got in so much trouble was out of frustration, really. You know, it was frustration because he felt that he should get better opportunities than he had done, you know. And so a couple of people, myself, Frankie Bunn, you know, we voted for Joey Barton, and I think the vote actually from 7 members of staff went 4 against him and 3 for him. And Jim Cassell said, okay, well, if you 3 see something special in him, even though the vote's gone against him, we'll give him a scholarship. You know, nothing to lose really. But it was because of his psychological outlook and his ability to overcome disappointments. That was his biggest asset, really. And then he's gone on and had a fantastic career. You know, he got an England cap. So you've got to say he's had a really successful career, and then gone into management. So yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing for me. And then I look at Phil Foden. He had all the magical ability from being 7, 8 years of age when he was with City. You know, he managed the ball, he manipulated the ball, he did everything right on the football pitch. But his parents were pretty strict. They wouldn't let him off the hook, even though everybody wanted to sign him. You know, Everton, Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City, all wanted to sign him. But, you know, he signed for City, and you'd have to ask his parents why. But I think they trusted us at City. You know, I think they trusted the coaches, they trusted the director of the academy, Jim, who was a real likable chap, like. And you know, I think that would be the reason why he signed for City and why he stayed there. But he's had extraordinary natural ability, but he's also had a little bit of mental toughness to be able to cope with what's come his way, you know. And he deserves everything he's got, because he's been a model in his upbringing through the academy. He's never been conceited, never thought he was better than anybody else, always been a team player, which now you see him, you know. And you look at Kevin De Bruyne, who are top world stars. When they lose the ball, they work the socks off to win it back, you know. And I remember when I played with Trevor Francis, and you knew that, you know, Trevor Francis, if the opposition had the ball, then he might as well not be on the pitch, because he wasn't going to chase and hurry the ball down in the hope that we might win it higher up the park. You know, he'd drop off and he'd have a rest. But that was all right, because I was captain at the side, and I thought, well, when he gets the ball, he's going to win my bonus money, which is more important, perhaps, like, you know. And so it's what you can tolerate and what you can build around, you know, what you can build around people. And I remember when I was at the PFA, and we had a little committee going that was talking about what makes a successful team. Dave Sexton said, a successful team is made up of artists and soldiers. You need some artists, so you Trevor Francis's. You need some soldiers, like Paul Power. The soldiers win the ball and give the ball to the artists, and then that, you know, that constitutes a good team. Nowadays, I don't think that being an artist or a soldier is good enough. I think you've got to be both. And you know, you look at Liverpool's front three. When they lose the ball, then they become soldiers. When they've got the ball, then they become artists. And the same with City, with Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, unbelievable. He's like one of them little toys that you used to put Duracell batteries in, and he never stops. You know, he's got fantastic energy and a fantastic intellect to want to win and get the ball back. So yeah, definitely all those things.